Could it get any more relaxing than this? My son's at gridiron training, which is American football, but in Australia we call it gridiron, and it's pouring with rain. I've only got an hour to wait, but what could be more pleasant than sitting in the car doing some stitching, listening to the rain on the roof of the car? Bliss! Isn't stitching when it's raining the best? The most relaxing thing ever. Hi, welcome back to Patchy Pony Stitcher. My name's Mel. It's the 15th of November and this is my Flosstube number 8. Welcome if you're new and thanks for coming back if you're returning. It's great to see you again and thanks for hanging out with me again. So a bit of a life update, or more I should say a farm update. If you've visited me before, you know that we've got bees. I've shown them before on my video and it's bee season. It's springtime and bees are on the move. So my husband's the beekeeper in the family and we've had quite a few calls to come and remove some swarms of recent times. So I think we've collected 4 swarms in the last 2 weeks. So we've got lots of new ladies around the farm all settling in. So I'll show you a few videos of some new swarms that have arrived. Lots of activity, can't get too close, but it's really interesting just watching the bees. So here's a couple of snippets to show you what the activity that the bees. Aren't they just the sweetest little things, which make the sweetest little treats for us? The honey, that's the best part of all. But also keeping them and preserving the bees. So many people that call us wanting the bees to be removed are really worried about them being sprayed or killed off. So it really puts, it's good to see a lot of people are concerned about the welfare of the bees and the longevity of the bee population. So it's good to rescue these little guys and rehome them. So another bit of a life update for you is I've been recently away to Melbourne and as I've told you before, I'm a bit of a concert junkie, so I went off to see Taylor Swift. So she'll be being added to my sampler of firsts when I get to her, so keep tuned for that one. But here's a little snippet of the concert for you to enjoy. Another one I've got to add to my sampler of first. Haven't got any more in the pipeline as yet, so hopefully I'll have something up my sleeve for what will be following Taylor on my sampler of first, because I've got a lot of fabric to fill on that one. If you haven't visited me before and you're wondering what I'm talking about, pop back to one of my older videos and you'll see my sampler of first and all my concert memorabilia that I'm doing as a sampler. I'm not featuring it in this particular video because I haven't worked on it, so that one's been put to the side. So moving on to my next topic is Stitchy kindness. Now, if you've visited Cheryl at Tranquil Stitches, you'll know that she likes to play a few games, which is lots and lots of fun, and I've been participating. It's lots of fun, so thanks Cheryl for the games that you provide. And fortunately, I was a winner in one of them, in her Fall Frolic competition, which was where we had to go and look at some other videos and pop an email through to her. So I won one of her project bags. So if you've thought about purchasing a bag from Cheryl, do it, because they are just gorgeous. So Cheryl messaged me and said, what would I like as the fabric. I said, you choose. I wanted it to be a surprise. So this is what she came back with. Aren't those chickens or roosters, chickens and roosters, adorable? And it's so fitting with the farm. We've got lots of chickens. And it's got the clear vinyl front and a zipper finder with a little, if I can spin it around for you, and with a little pony. Isn't that cute? So thanks, Shirl. That was, I love it. But things can't travel alone, can they, Shirl? So she sent a few little odds and sods with it, which is lovely. So she sent me through a book of horse charts. Love it. Thank you. And also some country ones. Oops. And she sent me some, also some 32 count opalescent, I'll pull it out so it doesn't get the glare, opalescent fabric, which is lovely. I love opalescence. And also she sport me rotten. Also some threads and some new needles. And a really handy little needle holder. So that'll certainly come in useful. So thank you, Shirl. I really appreciate the gifts and also the win of your fabulous bags. As I said, if you're thinking about buying a bag from Shirl, do it because they're super good. The quality is awesome. So, whips. What have I been working on? I have gone from 7 whips last video, now up to 9. Oopsies. I know some of you have got 50, 60, 70 whips and it doesn't faze you. 9 and I'm starting to panic. I just feel like I have to work on them all and I just can't. I just don't have the time. So I don't think I'm going to start anything for a while until I get a few of these finished. And I'll probably get a few finished sort of all close together. So my closest one that's to a finish is the Caterpillar Cross Stitch Adventurer Weight Cell. Now I'm going to put a photo, this is my dilemma one that I've been working on. Last video I showed you, well, I discovered that I had a dirty little mark on my fabric, which I had failed to see while I was doing the video. It wasn't until I was editing that I noticed it. So I'll pop a photo in here of where it was. Doesn't look too good, did it? So I asked for some help because I'd washed it a couple of times, still couldn't get it out. I thought it was a bit waxy because of the way it sort of felt when it was dry. So Judy and Sharon commented and said try popping a brown paper bag over it and iron it. And yes, I did get a little bit of residue come up on the brown paper bag, but it didn't remove the mark. So I'm not convinced it was wax. Natalie told me suggested to try doing washing with warm water and like a really soft toothbrush and some detergent to try and get if it was oil based. Tried that, still didn't work. And then Jackie suggested whitening toothpaste to give it a little gentle scrub with that and then leave it for 10 minutes and come back and rinse it out. So I gave that a crack too. No, still there. It had faded a bit, it wasn't as prominent, but the mark was still there. So then the next part of the pattern arrived and I thought, well, let's just wait and see where this pattern part lands on the fabric. Cross fingers, was it going to land on the dirty mark or was I going to have to adjust something and move it? Well, wouldn't you know, the pattern landed on the mark. So this is where I'm up to now. Actually, so I don't know, can you see where the mark was? I'm going to point it out to you in a minute. But if you weren't looking for it, I don't think you'd find it. So the mark is under those blue, pillar things. So you can just faintly see it at the top there between the palm tree and the blue one. So I think that's about as good as I'm going to get it. Now this pattern is nearly complete. I'll just pull it back a bit so you can see it in its entirety. So we've still got North America to go. But as you can see, my placement when I began it was a bit off, wasn't it? I think I tried to start too much in the centre of the fabric, thinking that we were starting on the centre of the pattern, but no. So there is a border that goes along with this, but I think I'm going to be cutting it too fine at the bottom if I try and put the border in. So I'm just going to leave it borderless and let the framing or the finishing help that off. So I'm really super happy with how that's coming along. So one last little bit. It did have had a fish and a boat in the oceans there, but I think I'm going to leave them off because they were a bit out of proportion for my liking. I put the aircraft in because I actually work for an airline, so that was one of the first little motifs that I did. So this is stitched on 14 count blue Aida, 2/1, and the needle minder is one that I made myself from a pin that we were given at work for a breast cancer awareness, which I thought was quite fitting for this chart. So that's my Adventure Awaits sal. Nearly done. Really can't wait to have something on the wall. That'll be my first finish for myself this year, so I'm hoping I can get that out before Christmas. Just to have something on the wall that I've done since I've returned back to cross stitching. So the next one I have is my Hook Run Hullo sal. So I'm going to pop a photo in now of where it was when I last showed you the pattern, which was last video. So here that is now. So I only just really made a start. It began on the 1st of October. My aim for this sal is to do one of those blocks per month, which will make it into a 12-month sal for myself. So this is the pattern in its entirety, and this is the Farms at Hook Run Hullo. So I've completed, well, what you'd seen is I've started on this one, and I've since completed that, and I've begun this one here, which is the sheep shearing one. Oh, not going to focus. So I'll show you where I'm up to. Now with the first one, I've used my first variegated floss. I hadn't used variegated floss before, so I was a little bit nervous, and with some assistance from Deb and Liz. Hi Deb and Liz, on your, what's the segment that you guys do? And it's all about, did you know? They've got some really great information on all sorts of different things, world of knowledge, those two, and they talked about all the different flosses and the variegated flosses, which appropriately was great because that very week is when I wanted to start using my variegated floss on my Hook Run Hullo, and I wasn't sure. I know you had to do the cross as you went, but wasn't sure if I went across or up and down. And as Liz said, she tends to go with, as Deb said, she tends to go with the direction of what she's doing. So if it's fencing, she goes up and down. If it's something like a dress, she might go side to side, or like a house side to side. So I chose to go up and down. Now the variegated floss I used was the Weeks Dyeworks Adobe. So it's not got a huge lot of variegation in it, but enough that I can see it. So I'm really pleased with it. So this is how it turned out. So you can see the difference in the colours. Now I am altering the pattern slightly to make it more personalised. In the pattern, the words said Hook Run Hullo Farm, and I've changed that to Tom, Dick and Harry Lane. And I've also changed the colours of the cows, and I left a few of the crows out because I had 5 in there and it just felt a little bit too busy. I did try to change them to black cockatoos, but I didn't really pull it off, so I had to pick out the yellow. So the Aussie girls that watch my channel will know what I'm talking about the black cockatoos. So the next one I've started for November is the sheep shearing Tuesday. So I've made a bit of a start on that. Haven't made any changes to this one as yet. So I want to complete that whole box by the end of November. Now, Amy from Amy Loves Toads had a fabulous tip, especially for these type of patterns that have the borders all the way around. So if you watch Amy, you may have seen her talk about it, but if you haven't and you're working on something with lots of borders, go check Amy out. She had a really great tip, and if I don't know if it's going to show up too well, but I'll try to show you. So this is 92 by 92 square. So what Amy suggested was just doing the single cross, so 9 singles, and then doing one full one on the 10th. 9 singles, one on the 10th, 9, 10, 9, 10, all the way to the bottom. And that way you're only counting to 10 every time and not having to count the whole amount if you forget where you are. Brilliant. And it makes stitching the borders a little bit more friendly. So what I do is usually stitch one thread of like white, and then I'll come and do one border, one stitch of white, one thread of the border, just so it's not so tedious. So that's my Hawk Run Hello sale. Still plenty of time to join. It's obviously going to be a long sale if I'm looking at a 12-month time frame. So Shell from Tranquil Stitches, Amy Loves Toads, and oh, sorry, I always forget the third one. I keep thinking it's Jen, but it's not Jen, it's, one moment. And Jeannie Swartz, I'm sorry, Jeannie. So those 3 ladies are hosting the Hawk Run Hello sale. So there is a hashtag on Instagram, Hawk Run Hello, HRH Sal 2018. So if you're interested in joining and want to see the different variations in people's work, go and have a look at the hashtag, because there's, you know, like myself, we make little bits of changes, so it's good to have a look at, especially if you're doing one and you want some ideas. So I think there's 3 of us doing the farm one now, which is great. So if you are doing it, don't forget to post your progress, because it is really good to see other people and where other people's work and where we're up to. Now the fabric, this is 16 count Ada that I tea-dyed myself, and I'm doing 2/2, and it's a massive long piece, as you can see. So that one I just coffeed and tea-dyed. I wanted it to look like a Hessian sack out of Granddad's out of his shed, being a farm one. The needle minder on this one is again one that I've made myself, just out of some scrapbooking supplies I had. That was an eyelet for scrapbooking. So just reusing my stash for my cross stitch stash now, which is lots of fun. I do like making needle minders. Had quite a few successes, some not so much, but that's all part of it, isn't it? So that's my Hawk Run Hello. My next whip that I've been working on this month is the Oz one that I started with Shell from Tranquil Stitches. So we're stitching this together. So I'm going to insert a picture here of the finished, of the model. It's not a great picture. Unfortunately, the pattern itself, it's very hard to see. So I've sort of screenshotted a photo of it to try and give you a better indication of what it will look like when it's finished. So this is Oz by Ori TM. So I've made a start on mine. I'm working from top right down. Because I'm left-handed, I find it easier to sort of work towards my left hand rather than across the right. So I think Shell's starting on the right, on the left bottom and working up. So we're working on different parts of it, which is really interesting. So this is where I'm up to. Now, it's a bit bigger than, I'm working on a 32 count even weave. This is my first crack at even weave. And it did take a little bit of getting used to, actually, but I'm finding I actually really like it. It's a lot smoother and softer to work with. Being that this is sort of a Quaker style, I'm not looking forward to the counting though down, because a couple of times I had to, being Quaker, you cannot have any miscounts, because if you muck up one little square, it sends the whole lot out. So I'm thinking it might take, I'll have to slow my stitching down with this and really make sure, because there was quite a few times where I had to unpull maybe only like 3 or 4 stitches, but it's still annoying when you just want to keep progressing further. So I'm not looking forward to trying to count down and getting that right, especially when you've got to have a straight line across the top. Now it wasn't until Shell was it's just started to rain. It wasn't until Shell was talking in her video about her start, and she had said, you know, that Mel's working on the top left, which is the lion. When I was working on this, I didn't see it. It was just a Quaker style to me, mainly because I was working on it this way. But then as soon as Shell said that, I was like, boom, I can see it. Can't unsee it now. But isn't it gorgeous? I was really happy with the way it was coming along before I even realised it was the lion. I think sometimes you get so engrossed in what you're stitching, and to me, I was thinking, oh, this is my first go at Quaker, so I wasn't expecting to see a picture. But I'm really pleased with the way how he's looking. And on the opalescent fabric, it looks really cute too. Like, you can't really see the sparkle in this light. So I'm working with DMC 2/2 in this one. This is the first time I've worked over 2. So that's probably why I'm finding the counting just a little bit more difficult, because I keep, just a couple of times I've miscounted and had to pull it out. So looking forward to doing the next motif. So for a while I'm working on, until Adventure awaits, I think I'll just do one motif a month as well. Now this needle minder is another one that I made myself from just a pin that you can wear, which I just got my husband to snip it off and glue a magnet on for me. So that's Oz by Ori TM. So that was one of my new starts. That became whip number 8. So I said I went up to whip number 9. Now, this is because this Nan Stitches enabled me to start another one. So if you watch this Nan Stitches episode number 6, she had an FFO of a tribal dog. Yeah, I'm sure it was a tribal dog. And she'd put her dog's names around it as part of the pattern, which I just thought was so sweet. And I've got a friend who's having a very monumental birthday coming up at the end of December. And she's had 13 horses. And I was like, oh, what can I do that's going to be, something a little bit special? So after seeing that, I was like, perfect idea. Now, the tribal dog actually was a cross-stitch pattern. And of course, I didn't have anything that was really to my liking horse-related. So I just Googled some images of a tribal horse, found some stuff on Etsy for decals, like big stickers that you can put on the wall, messaged the people, and they said, well, they actually bought the image from Vector Stock. So I went investigation-wise and saw, well, can I buy the Vector image? And yes, I could. So I bought the Vector image, which is just a flat image, like a JPEG. And I purchased that online, downloaded it. So this is what it looked, well, actually, let me insert a picture of the JPEG itself here. So with that JPEG, I then inserted that into Pixel-Stitch, which is a program online, free, and you can pop it generally I think it's for photos. And so I popped the JPEG into the program and asked it to create a cross stitch for me, and I could choose how many stitches, how many colours and so forth. So I played with it until I could find what I wanted. So this is what it spat out at me. So you can actually see that this is on a cross stitch. So it's on I beg your pardon, what am I saying? It's not on a cross stitch, this is the JPEG printed out. So when it prints it out for me, it prints it out really big, which is fine. It prints it out like that. So ideally, this is what it's going to look like, but along through the mane and the tail, I'm going to have the names of my friends' horses. Some are with us, some are no longer with us, so it's like a special piece of a memory piece. So that was the easy part. Now, I've never stitched all in one colour before, so I was sort of looking forward to it, thinking, oh, this is, just keep going. So with this one, so her decor at home is very neutral, like no particular colour scheme, just sort of greys, blacks and whites sort of colourings. So I wanted to keep in that so it doesn't stand out too bad, doesn't stick out ridiculous on her walls. It just sort of blends in with the rest of her decor. So I dyed the fabric myself. This is just 16 count Aida, and I just dyed it with a grey rit. Oh golly, that looks really, really motley up on camera. It's quite a lot more faded than that. That looks really bright. It looks like someone threw up on it. Golly. It doesn't look quite as busy in real life. So this is where I'm up to. So far I've done the head, and I'm really pleased with it. So it's going to take, it looks a bit disjointed at the moment, but that's the beginning of the mane. So that was one whole page. So it's stitched up quite quickly. Gosh, that fabric looks busy. It's really more like this sort of colouring, but all over. It's just the camera's making it look really dark. It even makes the floss look really dark, because that's not quite that dark either. So really happy with that, how it's coming along. So this has got a deadline on it because this is for a birthday. So I want to have this finished by Christmas time and framed. And I'd probably estimated how much fabric I would need, but I'm sort of struggling a little bit with getting fabric and my positioning right. So at least this I know will fit for sure, because it'll be probably too much fabric, which is fine. So this little needle minder is quite cute. This is from the House of Meng, and you'll find her on Instagram, and she does these clay needle minders that are really quite reasonably priced, and you can choose all sorts of different ones. So House of Meng on Instagram for that one. I'm really liking how that's coming along, and this is the one at the moment that I can't put down, which is good because it's a gift and it's got a deadline on it. So whip number 9. I can't start anymore, I just can't. But now my camera's decided to fall forward. There we go. So not really wanting to do any new starts for the rest of the year. I have got a few charts on the way. Hopefully I can hold off until I get a finish done. I know Adventure Awaits has only got one more little bit to it, and then that's done, so I'll be back down to 8. But that doesn't mean I need to go back up to 10 or even up to, doesn't mean I need to go back up to 8 or 9, sorry, 9. We'll try and keep them, I think I sit comfortably at 7. I think so. Okay, so my plans for between now and my next video, which will be around mid-December, is to keep working on the 4 that I've showed you today. So let's get Adventure Awaits done and dusted and framed, completed. Finish the Hook Run Hollow square and start the next one. Do another motif on Oz, more on the tribal horse. And if something else gets a look in, that's great, but I'm not promising anything. So I am doing a Christmas stitch along one, but I'm just finding I haven't got the time for it. So that might have to be next Christmas's finish, unfortunately. But yeah, so that's in the mix, and a few other things that haven't really even been looked at this month, unfortunately. So that's my plans for coming up into December for the silly season. So fingers crossed we'll still be able to get through that without too much other distractions, because I really need to get my tribal horse finished. So on that note, I'd like to say thanks again for coming and visiting with me. I'm going to leave you now with a little image that I found in my garden on Sunday the 11th of November for Remembrance Day, or Veterans Day in America. It just happened to be this one lone poppy that had sprung up and opened and bloomed on the 11th, and right behind it the rosemary bush, which is also a sign of remembrance. So until next month, I'll see you then. Bye.